going to go into the hard part. What are the cons about being married to an entrepreneur? No, I'm just kidding. We'll get to that in a second. So before we dive into that question, I have an interesting group here today because we decided to have a conversation about what it's like to be married to an entrepreneur and what it's like for an entrepreneur to be married to someone who is not. And so before we even get started, let's just take a minute to introduce who we are and who we are married to.
Yes. So I'm Tenesha Lusk.
And I'm Brian Lusk.
Look, they moved into the microphone. Did she tell you?
Oh, yeah, she did.
Tanisha modeled that
I
behavior.
am Tenesha Lusk.
And I'm Brian Lusk. This is my wife.
Of how many years?
Of 16 years.
That sounded like it was a quiz.
Well, because I don't know.
She doesn't know, so it can't be. For it to be a quiz, you would have to know the answer.
You have to know. You have to
Exactly.
have studied that, Tanisha.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just in case you ask.
Because I was going to ask. Well, let me get the hard question out the way. How many children do you have?
4.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Brian, because she was counting. That's what the pause was for.
Exactly.
And who are you, sir?
I am Duane Tingland. I am the husband of Shelyna Tingland. We've been married, 23 years?
Yeah, because I don't know.
Yeah, you don't know.
Thank you.
And we have 3 kids.
We have 5 if you count the husband and the dog.
Wow. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying, because this
Start in some
morning the
perspective.
dog was disrespectful where he wouldn't let me take him for a walk because I wasn't Duane. And he literally fought me. And I put it on my social media because I'm like, this is hella disrespectful.
He wouldn't
So I
leave.
dropped the leash and he ran right back to the door and would not. And then he's proceeding to walk him. And the dog was back at me like, anybody asked you to come with us? So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go home then and mind my business. So let's just go into it. What are the let's give y'all the sugar first. Are there any pros to being married to an entrepreneur? Because you're both in corporate America.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
What are the cons?
The cons or the pros?
Oh, I did say cons. Why am I trying to get to the negative side? Thank you, Brian. What are the pros?
Pros. Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, for me, I think the pros, of course, are financially. You have an additional income that comes into the family. So that's definitely has been a pro for me. And I think that's about it, honestly.
Yeah. I'm going to love this. Because y'all, Tanisha be giving
gosh.
She be giving it to me. So I am so excited for this. Yep, that was it. Go ahead, Duane. Tanisha, what are the
I'm
pros
about to
being-
pick up I'm about to put the key down and pick up if that's it.
But we're talking specifically about
Yeah.
the entrepreneur.
Entrepreneurship.
Yeah,
Yes,
we're not
yes.
talking about her, and we're
Right.
talking about
Right.
not
He
you.
didn't
We're
say
saying
you.
in
I
terms
know,
of
I
being
know
an
that.
entrepreneur.
She says still. Are there any pros to being married to someone who is still in corporate America?
Oh yes, the financial stability, the set scheduling, just the stability of being present. It provides that balance.
Yeah.
The balance when I may not be present, then I know that he can be present. The timing, flexibility, and the financials. Oh, and insurance.
That part, because that was going to be my pro. The insurance, that I don't have to go out here and search for it. Like, because it's hard out here in the streets for an entrepreneur to get insurance.
Yes.
So thank you.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. How about you? What are your pros? Let me get the list ready.
No. So I would say pros is just, seeing someone have a dream, that go-getter, not necessarily someone who goes and says, like, hey, I want to try what everyone else is doing. They're willing to step out there and just kind of do their own thing. And, whether it works or doesn't work, just having that desire and that want to, I think is definitely a pro in my mind, because I think sometimes what people do is they are fearful of, doing things, so they won't necessarily try something, something that's different. So, I definitely love that about, you wanting to go out there and explore, these things that you have wanted, you've wanted to do. And like I said, whether it was in your mind or you thought about it or you saw someone else doing it, I'm big on making decisions, right? If you make a decision and it doesn't work, we'll figure things out. But sitting there and just kind of hoping and not going out there and trying, like I said, if you try and it works, great. If it
So you
doesn't-
opened the door to something when you said decisions.
Yes.
So as an entrepreneur, we got to make tough decisions.
Mhm.
So has there ever been a time where your spouse's decision, being an entrepreneur, has affected you?
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
talking to Brian, I wasn't talking to you. Has affected
Okay, right.
either like the personal thing, because I know I've made some decisions, not always positive. I don't know if any of them were positive, that have negatively affected the family because I wasn't thinking. I got the shiny object syndrome, or I wanted to do what everybody else was doing, and it necessarily wasn't what my best yes was. So have you ever had one of those moments with Tenesha's decisions? And this is a safe space. We're not going to
Yeah. I mean, I think for us, she's been in the business for quite some time now, and so there's been several occasions where she's operating her business and her schedule, and things that she needs to do for the business to be successful.
Yeah.
And so I don't think intentionally, but maybe not considering the family or timing or schedule, and or just making a impromptu decision, quickly to get something done, and it just, of course, impacts the family. But you just kind of learn how to deal with it. Once she's been in it for so long now that I've adapted to it. And
would you say that's a sacrifice that you've had to make in terms of having a spouse who's an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I guess would be a sacrifice. I mean, it just comes with it. I mean, as having someone who's operating again this business independently, it just comes with that.
Yeah.
And so I've had to learn to again adapt and adjust, and now being in it more than 14 years,
That's a long time. Wow.
I have the benefit of hindsight and looking back on it, but we make it work now.
Yeah, I like, because you had to go through raising children as an entrepreneur, and still having that. And I don't really like the word balance, because you can't really create or generate true balance. But there have had to be some sacrifices made with, hey, I'm raising a family now, and I'm an entrepreneur, and you jumped. Like, you didn't go do a career path. You were like, I'm out. And you went right into, how do you think that impacted your family?
It did. Like my husband said, hindsight 2020. When you're in that moment and you're passionate about something, and I think that's the thing, when you're married to someone that is passionate about the things that are just not the conservative route, understanding that there are going to be risk involved, there are going to be a lack of, there are going to be an imbalance, and understanding that an imbalance doesn't provide a positive or negative. It's just saying that we're in this season now, and knowing that, okay, this season is going to be here, and it's going to balance out, and then once it balances out, the level changes over into something. So so there were definitely some sacrificing of time, of not knowing that when you're building a business, you have to prioritize your time.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I am a driven person. I'm very goal oriented. Now I've learned to maneuver that in a maturity way. Whereas starting out, you're not mature. So you're like, I got to build.
Yeah.
And knowing that, I use the analogy where it's like you're building this whole, and your family is there, but they're looking down on you, wondering when you're going to look up at them.
Wow.
And that is the sacrifice of being an entrepreneur, but just always, with maturity, it comes like, I know my family is there, and every so often I will have to look at them and validate them and saying, hey, I'm still here, I'm still present. I know what you see because you're looking down on me, but as I look up to you, I've come a long way. I'm still here. I still see you. You're still part of this goal, and just being responsible enough to communicate that.
Oh, I love that, being responsible to communicate that, because I think sometimes things go awry because the communication isn't there, or it's not right. And so I know feel free to divulge what sacrifices you've had to make because of my decisions, and how that might have impacted you
Well, I mean, Brian said it perfectly, right? It's definitely a sacrifice when you have someone who, has their own career, and it's not necessarily dependent on going and working a set schedule, and there's steady income coming in. So yeah, there's the instability when it comes to finances, right? But I also believe, I'm assuming like you guys are kind of opposite, right? So opposite does attract, right? It's like, okay, where you might be strong in one area, right?
I don't know if I like
Then-
that.
It
No,
does.
well, no.
Opposites does attract,
Yeah.
right?
But it's like, where you might be
Okay,
strong in
okay.
one area, I'm weak, right? And then vice versa, right? So
Okay.
maybe it's
Because we both born in July. We both have short tempers.
and we're both cancers, but we both have different personalities when
Yeah.
it comes to certain things, right?
Yeah, that is
And,
true.
Whether it's an occupational hazard or not, right? Risk manager by default, right? I'm always looking at stuff, always. So no matter what's coming in, right? If it's large or small or whatever, I'm always making sure things are accounted for. So it's never going to get to a point where I'm like, hey, we're in the red so much that we can't figure this out, right? The communication part,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's key, right? The priority part, right?
Yeah.
Again, your career, it's important. Our jobs, right? It's important, right? But it's family first. The first day I was hired, interview, my manager asked me, "What motivates you?" Right? And it's a simple answer for me. It's my family, right? That's what motivates me. So they are the first, last, and the most important thing that I focus on. So I'm driven by making sure that my family doesn't have to want for anything, right? Whether it's past traumas or whatever, that's my motivation. But also know that I have to make sure that, I'm not neglecting, right, us as a couple and me as a, single father. So, it's like anything. We just have to make sure that we're not losing sight of that
Right.
on our way to making sure that, we can focus on our, goals of being, better, corporate people or better entrepreneurs or
right.
whatever, right?
Yeah.
Business is business, but you can't lose sight of your family,
Yeah.
because if you think that the family's always going to be there, right?
Yeah.
These kids are growing, right? You've like seen it, right? So they grow up and they grow out, right? Your relationship can grow distant too if it's all one thing and not the other, right? Like we have to make sure that we're focusing on everything, and it can't just be, oh, it's work, 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 work,
Yeah.
work.
And I'm
Right,
guilty
so-
of that because I've
Yeah.
used money. I remember maybe about 4 years ago, I paid a lot of money. It was like $7,000 to go to this event in Houston, and I did not tell Duane that I spent this money. And it was interesting because when I first started real estate, how everybody says has 6 months saved up. To me, that's subjective, because if your lifestyle, yes, you want to have 6 months saved up, but
At least.
I had never been an entrepreneur before. So I had no one in my family who was an entrepreneur. I had no one to model, hey, this is how you handle the business finance. And so I read this book called, I think it was 7 Levels of Communication, and a part of the book said, take people to lunch. I took that to the extreme because I was taking people to one of the most expensive, shout out to Del Frisco's, every day.
Yes, I do remember.
And Tenesha, remember, I'm sitting up at the I'm cool with all the people who work there, and it did bring some great relationships, but at the same time, I'm paying. And Del Frisco's is not cheap. Until one day she was like, it was declined. And then she gave me that eye like, girl, just leave. We'll comp this one. I'm like, what just happened? For my husband to say, that red minus sign in front of the numbers in your account, that means you ain't got no money.
Yeah.
And I think it was a hard lesson that he was trying to teach me, that you think it's just going to keep coming. You didn't have a strategy. You didn't have a plan. It was a hard lesson to learn that I blew through 6 months in such a short period of time, watching what everybody else was doing and thinking, okay, well, maybe that's how I'll go get business. So how do you manage that? How do you deal with that financial component of, I'm about to spend, because I remember the 4th year I was about to spend that money again. And he said, before you do that, what have you done from the last time you went? And I was like, I had a great time. No, that's not it. You spending this money and you're making excuses for why you want to go back again. And when I didn't go, I thought I was going to be traumatized. He hates me. My life is over. I didn't feel like I missed anything. I got what I needed from the people who were here.
Yeah.
So has that finances, has that ever come up as, because there's people watching who might be thinking, I want to leave corporate America, want to be an entrepreneur, but my spouse and I are not on the same page because of the financing piece. Has that ever been something that has come up?
Not in the beginning.
Yeah, I don't think.
Yeah,
I can speak.
I'll say in the beginning, I took financial as the major responsibility as far as like going to go pay for the classes to get my license. Like I made a commitment to myself that if I took the money from our family to do this cannot be a try.
It can't be a hobby.
It can't. It just could not.
Yeah.
So, you know, I always took that as a financial responsibility because I remember when he brought up the idea of me getting into real estate, the thought was, I'm not getting paid the 15th and the 30th. Like,
So
like,
it was
you know,
leaving
like,
that comfort
yes,
of, I know
I
a
was
check
like,
is coming. Yeah,
I was like, okay,
yeah.
I know we're financially budgeted, right? We have the savings. I know that, but if I spend this, I don't know when I'm gonna get that back. So I took that responsibility head on. But of course, I mean, recently with the changes in the industry, you know, we experienced, especially me, I experienced a financial world that it was kind of like I I accomplished it, I lived that for so many years, and then it didn't look like that no more.
Right, because things had changed.
Yes,
around you.
the
Yeah,
industry had
landscape looked different.
changed, things did not look that way anymore. And it just came down to where, like, literally me and him were having a conversation. Like, he's like, hey, you haven't paid yourself in, like, months. And I'm like, yeah, I don't have no money.
Right.
Like, I'm paying my assistant.
Yeah,
like, I'm
yeah.
trying to pay her.
Right,
I'm not
right.
getting paid. So
Yeah.
if I don't pay her, or if I don't keep the money, like I had to sacrifice me not getting paid to keep the business afloat.
Yeah.
I had to keep that going because I knew it was only temporarily. But I didn't think to. It was kind of like I didn't think to communicate that to him. I was just like, oh, he good. Like he got a job. Like he get paid. Like like he has a
So you didn't
consistent
think it
check
would
going
affect
in.
him,
Yes.
or that he was
Yes.
even paying attention
Yes.
to say, hey,
Yes.
hey, your boss ain't paid you
Yes.
yet. We got to talk to
Yes.
management.
Yes. Whereas he was like, he's like, you know, I'm budgeting your income in these ways. And I'm like, but you weren't supposed to do that.
Okay.
Like we always had a goal where like
Yeah.
my income was a supplement income to provide experiences and do things for our family. So because we didn't communicate the changes, the original plan of me getting into this, I stayed there. And he grew in those areas and I didn't know.
And that goes with the when you're
communication.
involving
Yes.
communication.
Yes.
Brian, how was that for you?
Yeah, I mean, like she mentioned, I think when we started out, when she started into real estate, it was with the intention of like providing that flexibility,
Yeah.
you know, because we were having our son at the time, and so we just wanted a way that she could be available if the kids needed to get out of school or whatever the case may be.
That
And so,
flexibility.
in terms of how we planned it out, it was the expectation was for, you know, that to be like a supplement
Yeah.
to what we do. I mean, we budgeted it into our lifestyle, and so it wasn't, you know, a big deal when certain decisions were made initially. But then over time, like she mentioned, you start to, in terms of the way that I planned out things that we would do, like she said, you know, we used that additional income as a means to, you know, to travel.
Yeah.
To do extra things, and so we were still doing those extra things, but
So somebody was taking PTO, but their boss ain't paid.
yeah, and so it's just like, you know, like I told her during that time, just you
Yeah.
know, lack of communication. Like I'm okay with it, like we're not hurting, and we're not in financial
but we got to talk
straits,
about
but
the change.
yeah, I just want to know that if it's not going to come, because I may plan to do something,
Yeah.
and then because I'm having that expectation that this is going to come. And if it's not going to come, then I won't do this extra.
Right.
I won't go buy a motorcycle. I won't go buy,
Yeah, it doesn't help you to surprise people
Right,
either.
right,
When
right.
you're like, I want to surprise you and take you to Fiji, but your
Yeah,
boss ain't paid you.
exactly.
So that makes sense.
Yeah,
Okay, I
yeah.
like that. I like that.
So yeah.
We have a lot of, I'm going to call it financial disagreements because I think you are the watcher of, well, I mean, it's
Yeah, no.
by default, it's your job. So you analyze risk and I take risk. So I think was it hard for you to adjust to having a spouse who was an entrepreneur, especially because of that?
No, because again, obviously there's good and bad risk, right? And you can't.
There's good risk?
Yeah.
What's
It
a good
is.
risk? What's a good risk?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Jumping out of a
absolutely.
plane?
Yeah, that is a good risk.
I like that.
I mean, they're all good risks.
When
I think
Tenesha showed me that video, I was like, oh, Dwayne, I want to do this. He's looking at me like,
That's not a good risk.
I'm like,
I mean,
I say, call
he
it
said he
Tenesha.
wouldn't do it with me.
I mean, in my opinion, I think if anything, once you remove the title of a risk, right? Of course, you say, okay, you play it out, you make these predetermined decisions, say, okay, if I take this risk, this may happen. But if this happened, am I okay with that? If the opposite happens, am I okay with that? And will I come out of there either a change in financial or a change in growth?
So you're
or
looking
a
at the end
change in
result and saying, do I
knowledge?
pivot?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah.
Because
Smart
sometimes
risk.
the
Yeah.
risk, sometimes the risk is not tangible. Sometimes
Yeah.
the risk is something that you learned that you didn't know, that is a
good.
knowledge or
Oh, yeah.
education
Oh, yeah.
or meeting somebody there in that
Yeah.
in that space. So it's
Yeah.
just, I don't know.
No, you're absolutely right. And, like you can't be, risk averse to everything, right? Like you have to be able to take chances, right?
Yeah.
And you have to, like how I look at risk is I weigh the pros and the cons with everything, right? And it's like, you have to be willing to accept, hey, if this doesn't work, this is where we are,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
And if it works, great.
Yeah.
Right? So it's never one of those calculated, risks that I'm looking at like, okay, well, if we spend $30,000-$40,000 doing this, right, and I know there's a chance that we're going to end up, possibly homeless.
Oh yeah.
I may
Wow.
pivot.
Yeah.
I may pivot.
You ain't have to tell them all
No,
the
no, I'm just saying.
business.
I may
Thank you.
pivot and say, hey, let's try something else, right?
Right.
Don't move away from trying to want to do something, but this might not be the risk taker that
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
select. But as far as like I said, you having different views, financially than I do. Like I said, my motivation is my family, right? So I'm gonna always make sure if I have to work 2-3 jobs, I will do what I have to do, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's why I'm never worried,
Right.
Or
And then
concerned.
that bothers me because I'm like, wait a minute.
It shouldn't.
You're the most stable one. You shouldn't be the one picking up a part-time job. Maybe I should be the one making better financial decisions. And I find that sometimes as entrepreneurs, the decisions are like, I gotta think, I gotta act
So-
now.
I've said this to
Yeah.
you though, right? I've said though, you have a unique ability that some people don't have, right? Like you have doers and you have, people who provide the ideas, right? You're great with ideas. And I think sometimes people are challenged with coming up with
Segue
ideas,
to
but
tell
as
me that
long
I'm not
as
a
you
doer.
tell me what
Thank
to
you.
do,
Thank
right?
you.
A person can execute that.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, that's
So,
true.
we're all strong in certain areas.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's why I felt like you shouldn't always look at it that way because if I'm coming to you for some creative idea on how to make this thing work, let me go out there and do it.
Yeah.
Right,
You're the idea, I'm the worker.
Yeah.
I like that.
It works.
So
Okay.
I will say like, not to do any shout outs, but I'll say this definitely helped. We went to that one thing, couples conference, and we had to, out of a book of, I don't know how many cards, maybe 100 cards that was in the book of like core values. And we had to lay everything out on a table and we have to only leave with 3. So he had his cards, I had my cards, and we couldn't look, we couldn't
Right.
communicate about any of these values and stuff. And so what we walked away from it was his core values was family, religion. There was another one.
I don't remember. It's a little bit
Family, religion,
She remembers something. Ooh-wee.
structure or something. No, because that's how
That was important to you.
That's how I blend the differences, because even though opposites attract, opposites can bump heads a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And so when I find our differences and our disagreements or whatever, I go back to that, because his core values says one thing, but he can't have one without me.
Right.
I can't have one without him. So for example, like his is family, mine is legacy. You can't have how you gonna do that? Right. Whether it's not necessarily like a family, like if you don't have kids, you still have friends that you consider family. Still have that. The other one was religion. Mine was spiritual. Spiritual. You like, how do you do that? There was another one was freedom. His is structure. I think it was like structure, right? So it's like, I can't have freedom without structure. So when he does things and make decisions about things that I just can't even I can't even try to understand it, then I go back to that moment and say, oh, he has the structure in order for me to have the freedom. The freedom to do what I want to, what I need to do in this business that correlate will blend over into our family, right?
So have you ever had a moment where you disagreed and a decision had to be made?
Yeah, so it's not necessary. Oftentimes it's not the disagreement, it's our egos.
Tell me more about that.
So so I'm gonna give you an example where our so where we were talking about our finances. No, I know. No, we were talking about our finances during, the last few years, and how I had to make a pivot in our business. I had to get away what I'm accustomed to. I am accustomed to people serving me in my business so I can serve others. So I'm accustomed to leverage, right? And so knowing that we had to do some financial structures in our budget, I had to let go an assistant, right? I had to help her go find another person, team or whatever to go work for, because I couldn't do it. Let alone we had to reduce our personal finances. So my BMW X5M.
Oh, yeah. She went down to the M. There's some emotion with that.
I know, right?
When my husband was like, you're going to have to get another car. I said, so get another BMW? That is my car.
She's like, we could go to the 7 Series. Is that
right? And so we went head and head for months talking about that. And he was like, you just need to get a Tesla. It's more functional, gas, mileage, oil change. It's just a little bit more functional, not only just for your business, but for our lifestyle, right? For our budget. You're talking about like an adult tantrum. I was like, I am not.
She's that baby you see on social media cry.
Right? Yes. But I literally had to move the ego. I had to move the ego and say, and even though I'm still like feeling a certain way, it still comes
because she remembered it was the M.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, so it still.
But then she went to a Tesla.
Right. Because most people would say it was a BMW. No. She had to mention.
Right?
Why you say it's so sad?
I know, right?
Most people would be like, the Tesla.
Yeah,
in most cases, a Tesla is
okay,
going to be a lot more expensive.
Exactly.
But it's a step up. But wow.
So anyway,
she doesn't have the interior lights.
Like I don't have my interior features. I don't have my noise that makes when I switch gears. Like I don't have none of that.
You traumatized. I understand.
But it's practical. So
yes,
a decision had to be made.
Right. It had to be made.
Yes.
But
ultimately, I tried to allow her to make that decision.
Right.
So
but she wasn't understanding.
No.
But I think what the good point about that was you were persistent and helping to understand the practicality of it, where most people would just be like, all right, well, fine, we'll just do it your way. And then you're going down this hill, but the BMW still sound good, but it's not practical. I'm sorry. She's in her feelings about
So anyway, that's where the disagreement, where a decision has to be made. And it's not saying that it's a lot of times that couples we look at it as like, oh, well, a decision made and he didn't take my feelings in consideration. No, a decision was made and sometimes feelings are not taken in consideration, right? So it's so I had to go back to those core values. I was like, okay, he likes structure, I like freedom. Yeah. Okay, the structure of our financials, that no matter what happens in this market, what happens within my business financials, then I'm not carrying that extra burden of a $700 a week gas bill. I mean,
come on,
gas, or just the maintenance of all of that. So I have to say, okay, if I am willing to do this and I'm willing to agree with my husband who is structural, then I have to find some sense of freedom on the other side. And that's where I was able to let the ego go and say, okay, I'll trade in a BMW, I'll get the Tesla, but this freedom is going to come aside of me not having the extra stress that if the business pivot, that I don't have that extra financial burden. I can say, okay, cool. Like any extra reserves of this business can go towards this, not go into a BMW, like stuff like that.
And that's the thing I think we struggled with, because I'm like, okay, well, I'll find a way. Versus okay. Now I will say with the car, because we had the same situation. I drive a lot, and sometimes I'm driving to Houston to teach or Waco, and you talk about gas. It's a lot, and on the Tesla side.
And you have the maintenance too.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
Yes.
You know,
Absolutely.
Yes.
it's not
Yes.
just the
I
gas.
remember
not
my
just
first
an
oil change. I was like,
Yes.
your mother. But no, this
Yes.
costs how much?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
So there is some of that emotional roller
It is.
coaster. So I'm
It
going to
is.
ask, how do you deal
It is.
with, and I'm not going to look at you while you answer, how do you deal with entrepreneurs? I know you guys get it on the corporate side, but because you got to deal with managers and people, on your teams you might not agree with, but we emotional on the entrepreneur side because we are relying on someone else's decision. And I know a lot of times we've had this conversation this morning. We were listening to a Myron Golden podcast or video he did, and we were talking about there is stability. And I remember working for Frisco ISD the year that they laid a bunch of teachers off, and I was like, you have stability until they decide to lay you off. But for us, it's like I'm relying on someone's emotional decision to buy or sell. And I remember having a month recently where I had 4 clients all fall apart at the same time. 2 lost jobs, 1 had a life change, and the other one got caught up in some type of tax fraud that the lender found. And so all 4 of these, and that causes an emotional, how do you deal with our emotional roller coasters? And you can, I'm not going to look at you, you can be honest. How do you deal with it?
No, I think I look at it from the perspective of I understand your business, right? So it's coming from a place of empathy. I am looking at your situation, not pointing fingers, not trying to say, well, you know what, why don't you just join the rat race with the rest of us? It's like, hey, look, you know what, it's about the situation. You have some people it'll go from here to here. If not, you have to be that person that wants to continue to keep grinding, working. And like I said, if it's a mindset thing, right, then I think that's something that we can kind of like talk about, right? Because if you're happy with the fact that you have 6 in the pipeline and things are going great, but you never look at, okay, what can happen. I think that's part of what can keep you in a mental state that may make you feel more emotional, where you're like, okay, you don't know what to do now. But like I said, if you go into it knowing, these 6 are great in the pipeline, but I need to get 10, 15, 20, 30 more, right? Like you can't be satisfied with these 6 because it hasn't closed yet. Right? So this is why I always tell you, if I was ever to jump into real estate, no one's going to outwork me. And I mean that, like not in a cocky way. It's just I know me, and I know that if I have to provide for my family, which I said is the most important thing for me, you're not going to do something I'm not willing to do. I don't mind making calls because nothing you can say to me is going to bother me.
And this is funny. When I had to call for sale by owners and expired,
I don't mind being.
He bought the system for me for my birthday. I'm like, why would you? That's the awful gift. But I'm in the room. And I'm about to make a call. I sat in there and cried for about an hour because I didn't want to make the calls. And he walks in. He's like, they can't do nothing to you. Make the call.
You can slam the door in my face. Again,
it was terrible.
That stuff, it just doesn't bother me because, like I said, and then maybe it is a mindset, but it's also, if you've ever come from a situation of not having, right? Life is going to happen.
Oh, yes.
It's not a matter of
yes.
if, what, when, right?
Yes.
Life happens to
Yes.
everybody. Right?
Yes. Yes.
Right. And if something that you mentioned earlier that makes perfect sense, right? If you understand that, again, you have your expenses and you have the money that's coming in, right? If not as much is coming in, you need to look to see, can you reduce your expenses, right? And, it may not be the popular thing. It may not be the thing that we want. Which is why I love you, and I know that you're my partner for life.
You're about
is that
to say something that I'm going to be
well, no. So I told you I'm willing to do 2-3 jobs because you've seen me do it when we were in New York. You don't want to see that. right? So it's like, okay, you're not willing to see me, work 12, 13, 14, 15 hours and never come home. And so that may motivate you to be like, look, you know what, I can't let him do that. If he's willing to do that, that
Trying to give
means
me a
that
hint.
I need
I got
to.
it.
No, that's you telling me what you have
Yeah.
said. So I'm never going to ever be in a situation where it's like, look, if you decide, look, this is what's working, fine, I support you. I'm not going to watch the lights be turned off or anything else, right?
Yeah.
I am going to figure this out.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
and hopefully you support me, right? Like,
Yeah.
I support you. Hopefully you support that I am not doing this because I don't want to be home.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. And I would say
Yes.
he's been a great therapist. And sometimes our spouses have to be therapists. And then sometimes I don't like it because he tells you what you need to hear. And I'm like, if I wanted to hear that, I would have called Tenesha. And then I'm like, I called Tenesha, and then she said exactly what you just said. So did y'all talk about me beforehand? Because I'm not talking to neither one of y'all. So, Brian, how do you deal with the emotional roller coaster?
Do I? I don't think I have emotion.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
But I don't talk to you about it. I just say,
Yes, you do.
hey, go
Yes,
go
you
make me a drink tonight.
That's his cue to know we're about to have the roller coaster.
No, exactly. Yeah. No, absolutely, she has it. And I think, I've learned over time, as I think about it, I'm naturally, like I tell her all the time, like, if there's a problem, like, I want to solve it.
Yeah.
So if something's wrong with you, or if there's something that's bothering
him.
you, like,
Yeah.
I need to solve it. Like, I want to look. So I go into that mode. So
Yeah.
in terms of being up or down, regardless of that, if I feel that something is bothering her, like, it doesn't affect me emotionally.
Right.
It's like, okay, how do I solve this? And so over the years, I've
Like,
had to
just
learn
listen.
that she doesn't,
Yeah.
there are times where maybe I need to provide an answer that solves a problem.
Yeah.
There are times there are times when she just wants me to listen. So to deal with that, what I've learned to do is ask her, hey, what do you want in this moment? Do you want me
that's
to
good.
solve your problem, or do you want
Yeah.
me to just listen?
Yeah.
And
That's
so,
good.
I need to actually try that.
Thank you, Brian.
No, I need to because
Yes.
just like you, Brian,
Yeah.
I'm always trying to solve
He
problems.
goes
Right.
right into
Yeah.
problem solver.
Yes.
And I'm like, I can't solve that my client just lost their job.
yeah.
No, because for me, again, I'm like, okay, look, I've never been, brought up that way to kind of just self-pity, wallow.
Right, right.
I'm just like, look, all right, it's not working. Okay,
Right.
fine.
Yeah.
Right.
Do something different.
How do we fix it, right?
Exactly.
I'm like, all right, I'm sorry that this is happening.
Right.
Okay, let's turn the page. How do
Yes,
we fix it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you just want me to listen and that'll fix it, cool. I'll sit there and I'll just listen.
Yeah.
So, but in that same token, do you think that has helped strengthen your marriage too, to turn into the person that says, I'm not going to respond to everything, but maybe I just need to listen in
Yes.
this moment.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, yeah. Because, he's a problem solver, I'm a problem solver too. And, like, we're the oldest of all our siblings.
Okay.
And so we're the oldest, we're leaders, like, we're always
Are you first-time
constantly.
entrepreneur in your family?
Yes. Yes. And so that's, it has helped a lot because a lot of things that I do I'm like, I already know how I'm going to solve it. I just need to get it out.
Okay.
I need to get this energy out because we work with people and the decisions that they do, it leads with us. It starts with
Yeah.
us. It ends with us. And so sometimes we just need an outlet to let that energy out, let all those frustrations, because if our clients feel something, we gonna feel it.
Yeah.
It's just sometimes
Yeah.
we don't feel it during the process, but we'll feel it at the end, and we just need to let it out. And so him asking that question, it helps a lot because I'm like, I just need for you to just listen. Like, just be like, oh, okay, I'm like, I'm sorry that happened, or I don't know, just listen.
I just don't say anything.
Yeah,
But
just don't-
absolutely.
yeah.
It's carried over to answer your question to just like our personal relationship as well. There
Yeah.
are times that we are dealing with something on a personal level, and well, do we need to fix it now, or do
Right.
you just want me to listen?
Yeah.
And so
That's good. That's good. Yeah. Yeah. That's good.
It
Yeah.
eventually get fixed, because I still have to solve it, but.
Right. But
at
you
this
could avoid
moment,
so
in
much.
this moment in time,
Yeah.
I can just allow her to vent or allow her to be in her space.
Because you could avoid arguments. You could avoid causing this tension.
Yes.
Yeah.
By
for sure.
asking
Yeah.
that question.
Yeah.
Because
That's
she's
good.
her
'Cause-
personality. She likes to sit and stuff.
I'm
where
a
I don't.
processor. Like,
if something's
yeah.
there,
You gotta
if
get
there's
it
an
out,
issue, like,
yeah.
okay, let's get it fixed now.
Yeah.
Let's not
yeah.
let it linger.
Yeah,
And
and
so-
like, because he's like that, like, I'm a processor, and so he's thinking like, oh, well, you're not looking to solve it. No, I'm looking to solve it in a good way.
Right.
Because I don't want to be reactive,
That's true.
right?
That's
So
true,
it's
too.
like
Yeah.
I have to process
That
it.
is
I
true.
have to process my feelings. I have to process my thoughts. I have to process all of that, so that way when we do connect back, like we're actually getting to a plan and we're having a conversations without the intensity of the emotions, because nothing will get done.
No.
No, that's actually perfect when it comes to just how you respond in general, right? Like, it's like, you know, someone may say something that you don't like, right? And it could trigger you, and then you just immediately respond as opposed to just,
Yes.
you know, taking some time, you know,
Yeah.
listening to, you know, what was said. And then I think sometimes, again, it's human nature, right? People say things that can trigger you, but oftentimes there may be some truth in it, right?
Yeah.
So that's
Yes.
why it's like,
Yes.
The
like you
delivery.
feel like,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
like you're being judged, you feel like
Yes.
you're being attacked, so your natural response is to respond. So yeah, no, I definitely agree
Yes.
with that, and I have to get better at that. I have to just learn how to
You
just
heard it
listen.
and saw it first on camera.
No. I mean, listen.
Well, no, it's because I can, like, 1 minute I hate this, I'm quitting, I'm out, but I know I'm not going to. And then I come to my therapist and I'm thinking, okay, he's going to tell me, yes, go get the job. And he's like, no, why did you do this to begin with? And he's pushing me back from jumping off the ledge. And it's that point where I'm like, okay, I'm going to be okay. Versus having this conversation with someone who's constantly pushing you to go back to, no, it was safer over there. And he'll be the first to say, when you were there, it drove you crazy. When you were there,
Unhappy,
you didn't
yeah.
like it.
Yes,
When you were
yes,
there,
yes.
even in your worst year, you still make more money than you do over there. You've got all of these accolades, you've got all of these degrees and certifications, and you still made more money over here in your worst year than over there.
Yeah.
So why would you go back?
And sometimes
And-
being unhappy makes, you know, things more stressful for
Yeah.
yourself, right? And stress can lead to like physical ailments too. So
no,
it's,
tell me about it. You don't
there's a
even
lot
realize
that like goes
Yes.
into it. So that's why I
the
said,
burnout.
you know, if you have a spouse that's, you know, opposite to kind of how you look and think about things, right? That's why I'm like, look, if you say you want to solve world hunger, I support you, right?
Yeah,
Let me know
let's
what I
do
need
it.
to do over here. I'll stay in my lane. I'll help
Okay.
you out. But yeah, it is a thing that I think we need to all, you know, work on
Yeah.
collectively, individually, and just say, hey, look, you know what? These are the things that I like. This is what he likes. And I need to, you know, do some soul searching.
I
myself.
love
And-
this.
No,
Well,
I mean,
listen, I've got a lot of questions, but I know we are at our time.
Oh.
Like, literally, I didn't get to.
What's a good one you can end?
Okay, so listen with it. If y'all were entrepreneurs, what would you do? Well, you asked them the question.
Yeah.
Cause I sent you the question. You asked him the question. Yeah, come on. What you got? What you got?
ma'am.
Ask him anything.
Okay, so hindsight 2020. You know, we had, you know, goals and kind of just, I guess, no, we had expectations of me, you know, starting this business. Hindsight 2020, now that you know and we know, what is one thing we could have done differently
That's
as far as
good.
setting the realistic expectations? Or just the individuals, I guess you can say, like, because I had things that was uncovered. Well, that was already there, but relit.
In terms of the business, I mean, I think the way that it kind of evolved, it was just like naturally, because the reasoning behind why we got into it, you know, of course, was just, again, the flexibility, and
Yeah.
then the freedom, and it provided us with that, you know,
Yeah.
initially, but then it just continued to grow as you grew, and then, you know, you were younger when you started, and so you change as people,
Yeah.
and so, you know, you change, and I think it just, again, naturally evolved. So in terms of how we started it, I wouldn't have changed anything like that. But now, looking back, hindsight 2020, what would I maybe say differently or set expectations on? It would be, I think for me personally, just understanding that, you know, when you asked a question in the beginning about like the pros of it, and I think, you know, I jokingly said, you know, that was the only thing, but I think it gave her a sense of self.
Yeah.
So kind of, if we were to look back on it, then it was just kind of like to set my perspective on like what it did for her, like what it provided for her, and how could I have continued to support her. And
That's good. That's good. What you got?
I'm gonna piggyback. Nothing. No. Honestly, like I wouldn't change anything because I've seen you grown from this young woman who was out in the workforce and was on this crusade to do this, and then again you pivoted and you wanted to do something different. You were purposeful about it. You stuck with it.
Don't bang on
Yes,
the
there's
table,
been
we can
some.
hear
Sorry, I should have said that. Yes, there's been some. There's been some rocky moments, but again, I don't believe in like mistakes, right?
Yeah.
You learn.
Yeah, it's a understand lesson. So
Okay. If you were an entrepreneur, what would you do?
Restaurant owner,
Ah.
Jamaican food. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Would you be an entrepreneur?
I mean, I would, of course, but I don't know what specifically I would do.
Yeah.
Maybe some
Okay.
type of team ownership or something. Owner team.
Oh,
or
like
coach.
Oh, okay,
like a
okay,
sports
yeah.
team.
Yeah.
What kind of
Yeah.
team? Basketball, football?
I love all sports.
Yeah.
Okay.
if I could
Okay.
own, like,
Hopefully
a
it's not the
swim team, I
Cowboys.
probably would.
Even
Yeah,
though the
just
Cowboys might need
Cowboys.
new ownership. Tenesha, if you had to go back to corporate America, what would you go back to?
Oh, God.
She like, get somebody else to do it because I ain't
get
doing that.
somebody else to do it. I mean, I jokingly tell like my clients and like family and friends, like I've been doing this for so long.
You couldn't see yourself going back.
I can't. And it's a joke, but it's like for real.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
what else am I gonna like? I'll go create another business, right? But I don't.
Yeah.
She likes to sleep too late. She sleeps till 10
Yeah, and I like to be
See?
bossy. Like I like to tell people what like
Right.
a boss can't tell me, hey, you need to get this done at what time? Excuse me?
But you could
Right.
be that boss, though.
Yes,
You
you
could
can
be
be
I
that
will
boss.
be that.
Yes.
But I don't want to manage people neither.
Right.
Well, I will say, I just want to thank you all because Duane is a very quiet, laid-back person, and there are not many people who I could call and say,
Yes.
hey, and you are a personal friend. And there's
Yes.
not a lot of people I can say, hey, would you come do this, and have him be open. And so I appreciate you all coming and doing
I guess
this.
being comfortable. right?
Yeah, being comfortable.
'Cause
Like,
me and you, we talked, on.
I knew it. I knew
No,
it. Yeah,
not-
she finna call with some BS on going back to teaching. We got
No,
this.
at your events, when I see Duane just sitting there,
Yeah,
oh
he's
so
quiet.
lonely,
He
I
just-
say, hey, let me go talk to Duane and see what he been up to.
He ain't. That's his personality. He
know.
don't want to talk
I
to
know.
nobody.
But he'll
just-
talk to
he's
me. We
Present.
talk.
Yeah, because the two personalities are like the bossy. Yeah, they
Yeah,
just.
absolutely.
But he won't skydive.
Yeah.
Well, no, wait,
Would
I
you,
take
Brian?
it back.
She almost convinced me too.
You almost did it.
I almost did it. I told her
Almost.
I didn't have our
estate planning.
Estate planning.
See,
so-
okay, so that's exactly. I said,
That's what he
I
said.
said, let us take care of everything else first. I
Right.
said, if it's a bucket list item,
Right.
No, he said, let
I
me
am-
get a terminal illness and then we could. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
listen,
Yes, exactly. If it's meant at that time, it's meant.
it wouldn't matter then, right?
Right, exactly.
But then I could understand from the risk personality. He's like, look, I'm a risk analyst, so the risk of
Again,
me laying.
There's
I'm
a
like,
chance it may not work out. If
Right.
it doesn't, okay, that's fine. But
well,
be
listen,
prepared,
this was awesome. I
Yes,
feel like
this
we
was
need a part
fun.
two, like the couch comfortable conversation to kick
there.
back and yeah, really on the two chairs. So I appreciate y'all for coming
you're
all the way out
welcome.
here.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
and thank you for having your day off because you rubbed it in that this was like you normally like to sleep in, but you had to get up early. And had an attitude too with your little dog.
No, I.
Both of them this morning. You should have seen them walking across the street. Both of them looking at me like, "Why are you
No.
following us?"
I was actually hoping that I could sleep in, on a day off.
You get it tomorrow. You get it tomorrow.
No, I can't. Because
Well, we're going to have a
Precious-
part two.
And-
Yeah,
and
you
it
chose
was-
to babysit.
It was disrespectful for you to try to take his dog out for a walk.
Wow.
The dog doesn't. I mean, he has one
Wow.
owner. Like, that's totally disrespectful.
I can see that because
The
if y'all
dog-
see how the dog was looking at me, the dog was like, I don't get it. Like,
I'm
why
like,
are you
cool,
still
you
here?
go sit there.
No, Tenesha, I let his leash go and he looked at me, went to the door, and then looked back like, open the door. Did he not?
Yeah, you did.
He would not move. So yeah, I was disrespectful this morning to like
Yeah, exactly.
wake you up and then tell you your dog won't go use the bathroom. So all right, y'all, we appreciate you being here,
Yes.
and we will see you on part two. Bye, guys.
Bye.
All right, so we got.